And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside Los
Angeles. I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to The Bald Truth. Phone number is 888-659-3727. So great to be here tonight. Let me give out the phone number again, 888-659-3727. Sorry for a slight delay in starting the show tonight. Always having some slight technical issues. We just revamped the rig for this week's program, so hopefully everything sounds great, looks great, is working well. And if it's not, fuck it. What am I going to do? I'm doing my best. 888-659-3727. Listen, if you're new to the broadcast and if you don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss. I'm the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. And I'm a guy who's been dealing with hair loss since the tender age of 21 years old. Now, if you're tuning in for the first time and you're actually watching the broadcast, you're probably saying, well, this guy looks like he has some hair in his head. I say this all the time. It's important that you listen. What I have going on is a partial sham. Now, I don't love saying that, but I have to let you guys know. I've been dealing with hair loss for many, many years. I'm 47 years old. Again, started at the age of 21. But I've been lucky enough to slow the progression of my hair loss, and some may say even stop the progression, at least, for certain periods of my life, using FDA-approved medication. I have been lucky enough to save enough hair where I could, do this quasi comb over with the makeup in the back and the hairspray. And I have, talked about this before. I have tried small partial prosthetics. I hate saying that word, hair pieces, shit like that. I have been doing whatever I can for the last 20 some odd years to look like I at least have the semblance of a full head of hair. Tonight, I got the Trump the early years thing happening. Sometimes it's not quite as Trumpy. Tonight's a little Trumpier than usual, I think. But, I do what I do to make myself feel as comfortable in my skin as possible. You know what? I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm not afraid to tell people that. And you know what? Andrew's going to kill me because this is a great opening. I forgot to record, so I'm going to record right now. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Suncast. I do that to you all the time. I have to admit it. I have to let you guys know that this is the way that it is. And you're not alone in this. And if young guys are out there saying, well, what does this guy know about hair loss? I'm 24 years old and I'm losing my hair, and this old man still has hair in his head. Believe me, I know. And if I didn't know, I wouldn't be doing this broadcast. I would never have created the resources that we have online. I never would have written my books. And there would be nothing out there, in my view, where you can really get completely objective information, learn, share, vent, talk about a subject that society, just doesn't really allow you to talk about. That's what this program is all about. So, and I guess the reason I'm talking about myself, besides just doing the normal intro, is I still get crap. People still write me letters like I somehow don't understand their plight. Believe me, if you saw how much derm match I had to slap on my head today to just make myself feel comfortable enough to leave the effing house without a hat, you would realize that I understand. To try to slap down the flyaways because someone commented in the chat room the other night that he saw some flyaways, I had to put a half a can of hairspray on just now. And I still have flyaways. So as silly as that sounds for those who are just tuning in and don't really understand hair loss, everyone out there that is dealing with hair loss completely understands. And that's why we've been doing this for 14 years. That's why I'm still on the air. That's why the show is bigger and better than it ever has been since 1998. And sadly, the main reason is because 2/3 of you by the age of 35 will suffer with some degree of hair loss as men, and 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. And there's 200,000 of us waking up every effing day realizing that we're losing our hair. I need a drink after that. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. We have to deal with that fact. But because there's so many of us out there, because there's so many people who are so desperate to, try to do anything, so vulnerable, especially during the initial throes of their hair loss, this $3.5 billion a year industry is thriving because they're able to take advantage of vulnerable hair loss sufferers. And while there's a percentage of the industry that is really helping people, the vast majority of shit out there is just what I said. It's shit. It's crap. It will not help you. It will not. These products and services will only basically waste your time, and in my view, your time and your money. And in some cases, if you make the wrong decision when it comes to surgical intervention, you're going to be disfigured. That's the bottom line. That's the real deal when it comes to this industry. So please do your due diligence. Learn from this broadcast. Check out our message forum, baldtruthtalk.com. Check out the Bald Truth. Go to the American Hair Loss Association site and take the time to learn before you buy any product or service to treat your hair loss. Now, again, if you're new, this is a call-in show. There's a number on the screen, 888-659-3727. So you should feel free to call in, talk to us, share your thoughts and your feelings about hair loss. If you have questions or concerns about hair loss, this is your safe place. I'm not here to sell you shit. I have no products or services to sell. You want to buy one of my books? Great. Go to Amazon or you could still find them in a local bookstore. You may have to order them. They've been on the market so long. They've been out in print so long. But I don't sell anything. I really don't. So, we provide every bit of information completely free of charge to the consumer, and we have been doing this for about 15 years. You're not going to see, if you go to Bald Truth Talk message forums, you're not going to see any spinning ads. It's not going to look like a fucking Turkish bazaar like a lot of hair loss sites do. We're not selling any products or anything on that site. You go there and share, learn from each other. And if you have any questions, you should go into the forum, and there are professionals in there who are willing to answer your questions. And there's some not so much as far as, there's some guys that aren't quite as informed as they think they are, but they're still there to try to help. There's a sense of camaraderie in the forums. I think they are important places to learn and share. We're going to take a phone call in a second, 888-659-3727. Good chance this is Joe, but you never know. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
I want to thank the millions of people in the Christian army of soldiers praying for my possible pancreatic cancer, heart disease, body dysmorphic disorder, psychiatric illnesses, degenerative disc disease, the list goes on and on and on. Guys, don't waste your time praying for nonsense like that. Pray for a cure for hair loss. This is what we need. Thank you, but no thank you. That's all I got to say.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like to may reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, listen, people care about you, bro. I mean, why? If someone is willing to throw you a cup of prayers for your health, I think that you should allow them to do that.
But I think, I'm a member of the atheist community. I believe their prayers, if they do believe in God, should be more towards hair loss, which is a much more serious disease than anything in the world.
Yeah, but everybody wants. Listen, we say this all the time. There's a little of Joe in us and all of us here at the Bald Truth. So people want you to do well. And you know what? When there is something that will help you, when something does, a technology or a treatment comes to fruition that can help Joe from Staten Island, we want Joe to be alive. We want you to be able to revel in it, to enjoy it, to live your life, to go out and meet those transsexual hookers that you keep talking about, and feel confident in your own skin.
Yes, I would like that, Spencer, very much. I am very horny.
Oh, Jesus. That's going to be a sound clip on all the shows now. So what's happening? We got a lot of calls on the line. Anything new?
Well, of course, I need a lot of time. There's been several things, going on. First of all, on a castigate, some of my distractors in the chat room were viciously attacking me. They want to know how I make such a tremendous amount of money from bed. I make over $7,000 a year, which is a tremendous amount of money. I'm trying to explain to them I'm on a pension. I worked 20 years with the police department to get that pension. They seem to be attacking me over that. And I'm a little resentful of that.
Why are they attacking? What exactly are they saying?
They don't believe it. They can't understand how I can make that tremendous amount of money from bed. What am I doing? It must be a scam. I did 20 years as a patrol officer living under a hat.
They say it's a scam, that you must be a scam. Listen, you got to understand, these kids don't know shit, man.
I mean, I realize tremendous amounts of money more than most people, in this community make. But, can I tell you, I did my time. Always worrying about my hat flying off. That was my major, worry in the police department. You know what I'm saying? And I'm being attacked. It's not cool.
Dude, that's the story of my life. I'm attacked all over the internet. I mean, that's just the way that it is. You have a monicum of fame there, bro. You have to realize that.
Well, I do appreciate that. I hope someday my monicum of fame could translate to me doing a Rand's commercial and getting a free injections. Give me a full head of hair, man.
Look, I told you, as long as I'm in this field, whatever I can do for you, Joe, I'm going to do for you.
Okay, can you write me a check for $10,000 overnight it?
If you really needed it, Joe, I would.
I don't need. I'm very well expensive. I make a tremendous amount of money.
I'm just saying, I would somehow find a way to do it for you, Joe. If you needed money to pay your medical bills or some shit like that, I'm sure we could figure something out.
Well, I appreciate that, but I really don't need that. I have all kinds of insurance, but I do appreciate that.
All right, well, then don't hold me to it, all right?
No, Spencer. All I want you to do is get me in that chair real soon. Now, we have several pieces of news. A lot of people, inform the question about this L'Oreal. They're demanding I get the figures and what the exact is going to do. I don't know. I don't have this information. I have no inside information.
Nobody has any inside information. I can tell you that, in my view, I don't think it's going to be that much. I just don't. Just based on history. But it doesn't, I could be wrong. I hope that I am.
But they're selling it for like €90 a month, which translates into like $75 US.
Yeah.
I mean, how do they get away with selling something more expensive than Propecia and Rogaine and does nothing?
How can they get away with it? How can every cosmetic company in the world who sells, these anti-wrinkle creams and all the shit that you see that, supposedly have clinical trials and all this data proving that, that they reduce wrinkles in rats. Wrinkles in rats. Actually very funny. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, that's the nature of this industry. So, I mean, that's how they can get away with it. And they're selling it as a cosmetic.
Well, you seem to be inferring that the fact that selling it as a cosmetic somehow, with all due respect to you, sir, that makes it inferior. That's not FDA approved.
No, I'm saying that they have what I'm inferring is that they have a lot more latitude. I'm not saying that it's inferior. I'm saying they have a lot more latitude. There's a lot more that they can say, and there's certain ways to frame their marketing that if they were a drug and if it was an FDA approved product, a drug, they wouldn't be able to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I definitely understand that. Now, sufferers have asked me on, the pre-show chat what's coming down the line. I'm saying in September, we're going to have major announcements from Allergen. We're going to have Neogenic or L'Oreal on the market. Then in October, the ISHRS is meeting in the Bahamas. Will you be attending that meeting, Spencer?
I will not be attending that meeting. I have to tell you that, I really considered it. I just don't know if I want to be around the pool with a bunch of hair transplant doctors with their clothes off. I don't know. I mean, or on the beach. I don't know how comfortable I would be with that.
Well, some of them might attack you, no pun intended.
It's a little personal. No, I'll say this. I've attended several meetings, and I'm obviously involved in the community. The truth is, I am not well loved by the the majority of hair transplant surgeons in the ISHRS for several reasons. Well, yeah, and I really limit what we do as far as the IAHRS. Most of these guys cannot get into the IAHRS, and a lot of these guys will say, "Well, we don't want to be a part of it." Well, that's bullshit. In all honesty, that's just crap. These guys would have to be out of their mind to actually, really, for anyone to really believe they don't want to be a part of it, because we are really, the most, at least as far as the mainstream media is concerned, the most promoted organization. We're the only organization ever to be recommended in Consumer Reports magazine and in Consumer Digest magazine. Recently recommended last year in GQ magazine. Why do you think that is? Why wasn't it the ISHRS in Consumer Reports magazine? I can't pay to do that. I can't buy advertising.
Is superior.
Well, the point is, they understand that we're selective and that we really try to create a group of elite surgeons. Now, that's not to say that everyone's going to have a great result from IHRS doctors. That's not to say that and anyone should jump in and have surgery. I will not sell surgery, and all of my doctors know that. I always say surgery is a last resort. But to get back to the Bahamas, I'm not really well loved, so I kind of go there, and my guys are there, but I'm not there to sell anything. I'm not there to take out a booth, and frankly, I get all the inside information anyway, so it's not like I'm going to miss anything if I'm not at a seminar. You know what I mean?
Right, because it'll be online. My understanding is that you'll be free interviewing certain speakers there. You'll have this stuff in the can.
That is correct. And I also think it's important. Like, I don't like to mix business with pleasure. And anytime you go to these conferences, I don't care if you've ever been to I don't know if you ever went to like a COP conference. I'm sure they have them, but I mean,
yes, I have.
It's insane what goes on, especially after hours. I don't want to be involved in any of that. I don't need to socialize with these guys. No offense to anybody, especially my friends in the industry. I just think that, there has to be a separation between, of business and pleasure.
I'm sure that once they get a few drinks in them, they might even, verbally attack you.
I had, the last time when I was, the last meeting in Vegas that I went to, I had a really great time. I was hanging out with Alan Bauman and some friends of the Bald Truth. Alan's he's a great guy. He's a lot of fun. He's really sharp and witty. We drank, and, he was very controlled, which I really admired because he had to speak the next day. And I had a lot of fun with some of the good guys there. However, I don't really feel that comfortable in that environment, and I just think that it's not important for me to be there. There were days when I started in the industry where I thought it was important for me to be there, and then I kind of learned that it really isn't. All the information that's being presented, I can get either ahead of time or I can get the day that it's being presented.
Well, maybe you could send me undercover. The Bald Truth could send me.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Joe, because I don't think it's possible to ever send you undercover. How can I? What are you going to put on your? You just going to walk in there with your surgical mask and you're going to think you're in hiding or something?
Yeah, I think I'll be spotted immediately by certain doctors who have met me. So I'll be spotted right away.
Yeah,
that would not be a good idea. Now, a lot of people in the message forums demanding I give them news. Every day in these forums is all bullshit news, nothing substantial. So I can't get these news, Spencer. Could you please explain this to the sufferers?
Well, I
can't give news that doesn't exist.
I think you're explaining to them. Now, Joe, so is there anything else like right now that's really compelling that you want to talk about, or can I take a phone call?
Well, one more thing to say. My body, dysmorphic disorder has been getting a lot worse lately. It's been really getting, really severe.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I mean, I kind of understand that. I speak to a lot of guys who have body dysmorphic disorder, and women actually. A lot of women contact me, through our resources. I think that at some point, maybe I had slight body dysmorphic disorder, so I kind of understand it. But, what do you see? Like besides your hair situation, is there anything else that you focus on that you're unhappy with?
No. Actually, let me say one more thing, if you don't mind, Spencer. our good friend Dr. Alan Fellow was the first person who actually diagnosed me as having that, believe it or not.
Really? So basically, he
so
said
he
you're out
said
of your
that-
mind because your hair is not as bad as you think it is.
Exactly, that's what he said. He said, I suffer from BMD. I said, what's BMD? He explained to me that I grossly exaggerate my situation. So, a lot of it's in my head. So he said, I do need, psychiatric counseling. He said, more so than surgery.
Well, I think that's very honest of him because he could have performed surgery on you.
Yes, he wants to perform a couple thousand grafts, but And I'm going to get to one more thing briefly. I was dissecting something in Dr. Bernstein's website today. He's insinuating the jury is still out on ACell. In some cases, it does work with plucked hairs. In some cases, it doesn't work with plucked hairs. So I really can't discern any news on that. Could you give me your opinion on exactly what's going on with that?
My opinion is I think that he's being diplomatic. I don't think he really. I don't think from everything that I read on his site and from what I've garnered through some conversations that he's a huge fan of ACell. But with that said, Jerry Cooley's supposed to be providing us with some information that may be to the contrary of everyone else's concern that ACell may not be working. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I just cannot make an assessment at this point. But I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm certainly not as excited as I was a year ago.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a thing. And one more thing I want to quick comment. People, question me about allergies lattice. In September, they will announce the results of the phase 2 trials. My understanding is they'll announce the strength they're using. And my understanding is doctors will then soon be compounding their own formulations due to the fact the active ingredient Myopros, the patent expires early end of this year, which means they can make up a strong version of this fairly cheap, maybe $100-$150 a month.
Right.
And they'll be selling it as they did with Minoxidil years ago.
Oh, yeah, and I think that there's plenty of people who are going to buy it, and some people may benefit to some degree. I still think it's going to be marginal, and that it may benefit people more than Minoxidil, but it's not going to be the panacea. We know that, Joe.
Well, Spencer, all due respect, how do you know that? How do
I know that? Well, I can tell you that being able to grow an eyelash to a longer length and a fuller diameter, it's a lot different to have a significantly cosmetic difference in an eyelash than it is for a hair follicle on your head. So, we don't know, it's not like it's growing eyelashes, 10 feet long at this point. There's a very small amount of growth, which has a tremendous impact when it comes to your eyelashes and maybe your eyebrows. But how is this going to translate into hair growth? How is this going to translate into significant, aesthetically appreciable hair growth? Tell me.
The cat has $50,000 hairs on his head, and you could quadruple the length. That's obviously going to change the guy's cosmetic appearance.
Yeah, but you're talking about quadrupling the length. How do you know you're going to quadruple a vellus hair's length? How do you know you're going to get into growing to a terminal hair? And you have to understand that if you're just quadrupling the length of a vellus hair, you're not actually you're not actually reversing the miniaturization process. It's not growing to full, to full length and to full terminal size. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Well, let me just summarize one final thing. As you know, the ADA, American Dermatological Association, conducted their own study approximately 2 months ago using a very, very weak version of what Allergan is using, and they increased hair growth by 22%, which in itself is extremely significant on a hair loss sufferer. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Listen, I agree, but I just don't want to get people overly excited about this stuff, Joe. I really don't want to get people overly excited about this. It's great that we're going to have another tool in our arsenal. I hope that it works as well or better than Minoxidil, like we're all hoping. But I do not think it's going to be any type of a magic bullet. And I think that Yeah, I think a lot of people may benefit from it. I don't know if they're going to benefit for the long term or if it's just going to be kind of like a Band-Aid like minoxidil is. I just don't know, Joe.
Yes, but one fact we do know, as when I announced approximately two years ago for hair loss sufferers of Biogen, they've quadrupled their money. That is a fact. We have to take that back.
Well, you should. I think people should start sending you some checks. Listen, Joe, I'm going to. I'll keep you potted up. Actually, I'm going to put you on.
And one final thing: didn't I say that? Facebook would be destroyed? The stock? Didn't I predict that?
You did. You are.
It'll be a bloodbath, and you ain't seen nothing yet.
Hold on. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. What can I do for you?
Hey, Spencer. Hey, Joe.
Hey, George. What's happening, man?
Oh, just hanging out, man. Just hanging out. Joe, we're going to keep you in our prayers, whether you like it or not.
I actually put Joe on hold because I noticed that if I keep a lot of people potted up, sometimes the volume of the phones aren't right. So he could hear you though.
Quick question for you. I just was wanting to hit you with a couple of questions about your experience with side effects with finasteride. I just got my latest finasteride prescription in, and I get it through a mail order thing. I was a former federal employee, and it's really annoying to me how every year the feds keep changing our pharmaceutical provider. They keep changing, the company who's the provider, and they just went from Medco to Caremark. And a year or so ago, my medication, I asked you at that time about it, was being manufactured in Israel, in Jerusalem, Israel.
Right. Which
I had no problem with that. I know those guys have really high quality control. Next thing I know, the generic went from Jerusalem company and Teva Pharmaceuticals in Israel to being made in India, which I was not real happy about. And, if you want to pay for the name brand product, if you want to pay for the original stuff, the ProScar from, was it Merck?
Right.
It's a hell of a lot more expensive. A hell of a lot more.
Yeah, I pay about $300 or so for $300 some odd dollars for 90 tablets.
Yeah, and it's so, but how long are those 90 tablets lasting you?
They last me a long time because I really probably, on average, take about 2 tablets a week. On average.
That's 5 milligrams?
Yeah.
So you're not cutting them, you're just like staggering, waiting a couple of days and taking another one.
Yeah, I take the entire 5 milligram dose.
Well, I've read articles where people, different doctors and consumer advocates have talked about how a lot of generics are even more safe than the name brand stuff. It's been through more of a vetting process, and they've had various and sundry arguments for why generics were a great thing. But I don't have a whole lot of confidence in anything manufactured in India any more than I do stuff manufactured in China.
Well, I saw a great 2020 special or six. I don't think it was actually, maybe it was a Dateline special where they went into an Indian generic, Indian pharmaceutical company, and they basically had the formula for Vioxx, and they wanted to have it manufactured with a slight different variation, something like that. I may be getting the story wrong, by an Indian pharmaceutical company. And while the Indian pharmaceutical company did recognize the fact that it was Vioxx in essence, they said that they would be able to move forward with the clinical trials. And it got to the point where I guess the reporters identified themselves, and the company kind of locked them into their headquarters. Didn't want to let them go it was a really weird scenario. So I guess the moral of the story is, in this particular situation, this pharmaceutical company was willing to conduct clinical trials with a drug that was removed by the FDA here in the United States, or taken off the market for killing people.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty scary.
it is pretty scary, and I'm really pissed that the federal government has gone to this Caremark company, which is Caremark is a subsidiary of CVS Pharmacy. The CVS is on every friggin' corner in the United States.
Sure.
This is their mail order division.
Right.
And to show you how stupid these people are, I called the Federal Employee Health Benefit Program deal up, and I called them up and I said, look, where is this stuff being manufactured? And she says, well, it's being made by some company called Camber, C-A-M-B-E-R Pharmaceuticals. I've never even heard of these friggin' people. Camber Pharmaceuticals, Piscataway, New Jersey. Huh?
I want to make it clear. Is that my phone? That's in the bathroom. You guys could hear it through the mic. Anyway, I want to make it clear that it doesn't mean just because it's manufactured in India that the product is not going to work or it's not going to be effective. There are good pharmaceutical companies that are manufacturing good products in India. I'm just saying this particular company and this particular instance that I saw on this news magazine was pretty scary. So it doesn't mean if you get it from India that's going to be bad. It doesn't mean it's going to be any different.
I'm well aware of that. It's just there's no reason why they can't be making it here. But the woman that answered the phone on the number on my health card, my health insurance card, I asked her. I said, "Where's this stuff manufactured?" Oh, this is. I think she said this is a British pharmaceutical company, Camber. Never heard of them, but they got an office in Piscataway, New Jersey. So she's telling me it was manufactured there, and I'm saying, "Are you sure about that?" Oh, yeah. I get the damn bottle in, manufactured for Camber Pharmaceuticals, Piscataway, New Jersey, and then it says by blah, 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 Hetero Labs Limited, some name I can't pronounce, Meta, Hyderabad, India. So once again, you got these people answering the phone, know what the hell they're talking about. I was just, I don't know if I know you said you're pretty much a brand name whore, as you said.
I'm a brand whore for sure. Well, that's how I started, and frankly, I don't let my insurance doesn't pay for my Pro Scar, even though I'm a man of a certain age at this point. Who, if I wanted to write off my insurance, I could, and no one would think twice. But being in the position that I am, I don't want to commit insurance fraud, so I have no problem paying full price for 90 tablets of Pro Scar, which lasts me forever.
Right, I got you. Well, that was one thing I was wondering if you had thought I would have any concerns about this, even though it's the federal government health plan. I don't have a lot of faith in the federal government because we all know what a bunch of idiots they are.
Well, how are you doing right now? You're doing fine on the drug. I highly doubt that this new medication, this new manufacturer is going to, there's going to be anything much different. I don't think it's going to cause you any side effects, and I don't think you're going to lose any ground. I'm just a guy that likes to stick to the brand. That's just the way that I roll.
I understand. I'm looking at the full page of all the possible side effects. And of course, we all understand what's all behind all that. Most people don't understand. For your listeners who do not understand drug trials, when you buy a pharmaceutical medication and you get the insert with all these cautions, what people don't understand is that the people who are involved in the drug trials have to report any kind of weird stuff going on with their body during the course of the trial, which could be a long-term thing. It can be going on for 2 or 3 years or longer. And people don't understand that they have to report all kinds of anything going on with their body out of the ordinary, but it doesn't mean that it necessarily had anything to do with the medication.
That's right.
Most people just don't understand that, but that's just the way medical trials work. But it's funny because I'm looking at all this stuff on, dizziness and lightheadedness and fainting. And, the thing is, the friggin' stuff goes on for 3/4 of a page. I was going to ask
let me tell you, if they had a list of side effects in the back of this Corona, if they had a list of side effects in the back of this bottle of beer, I don't even think it would fit on this bottle.
Yeah, exactly. But I was going to ask you, out of all the side effects that they've had listed, of course, they talk about there's been cases of male breast cancer, and they talk about if you have any lumps, pain, nipple discharge, blah, blah, blah. You may want to check with your doctor about using barrier contraception condoms while having sex with a pregnant woman. Don't give blood, all this stuff, possible side effects. And then they get in here about depression. I read the other day that they're on Wikipedia, there's like a big problem with people having depression taking this, nipple discharge, testicular pain. The only one of these things I've ever experienced, getting into rash, hives, itching, difficulty breathing, tightness in the chest, on and on and on. The only one of these things I've ever experienced, I've had intermittent and very, 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 short duration, I say for a few seconds or a couple of minutes or something. I have experienced some testicular pain, but that's been very sporadic.
I've had it too. When I first started taking the drug, I had it. It was not fun, and then it kind of dissipated. I also have suffered over the years with what is it called? Epididymitis. Is it caused by the drug? I highly doubt it. It's a very, very common, it was non-bacterial or anything. Very, very common issue that guys have, guys who would never take finasteride. So, yeah, I mean, shit happens. It's our balls. I mean, our bodies. Stuff happens in our bodies all the time. It's not necessarily related to any drugs that we're taking.
Right. Well, I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
These are my thoughts. You have to, people have to kind of understand that anytime they pop a pill, anytime they take any type of medication, we never know, what the long-term adverse effects, especially if we're going to be taking this for a long period of time. So we have really no clue. All we can rely on are the clinical trials, and then, of course, the anecdotal data. And then as, time progresses, there's going to be, more stuff that comes out. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I've been on this stuff for almost 20 years. At some point, will I, eventually be diagnosed with some horrendous disease? I don't know. Is it going to be caused by the finasteride? Who the hell knows? If I, God forbid, have prostate cancer one day, am I going to blame it on the finasteride? Well, a lot of people will, if that's what happened to them. If I was to somehow be diagnosed with breast cancer sometime down the line, would it necessarily be, a strong causal effect with finasteride, especially since I've been on it for forever? I guess it's possible, but it could have happened anyway. I try not to think about it. Right now in my life, finasteride has been very beneficial for me over the last, almost 2 decades. I feel, very, very healthy. Some people in the chat room last week said I may have a little brain fog. I think that's more due to, getting older, drinking a little too much sometimes, and a little depression. I'm not going to relate it to the finasteride use. But I mean, I just don't know, George. Anytime you put something into your body, you pop that aspirin, you're taking a chance, and people have to be aware of that.
Absolutely. The main concern I have, and I want to know how you dealt with this, and maybe some of your audience may have dealt with this. For those of us who've been long-term finasteride users, you do know, I'm sure I know that you know this, but I think it's important enough that we need to repeat this on the air every now and then, just so the new guys will understand this and will take precautions. Finasteride, this 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, will artificially suppress this chemical in your blood called PSA, prostatic specific antigen, which is one of the ways that one of the markers they look for as a possible indicator of prostate cancer, when this PSA number starts trending up over a period of time. And there's been arguments back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But this is one of the things that docs look for, in addition to, digital rectal exams and transrectal sonograms and that kind of stuff. But since this stuff will artificially suppress that indicator, it's been suggested that those of us who are on this drug long term occasionally get a digital rectal exam or some other means other than just the blood test to make sure we're not getting into trouble with prostate cancer. Are you doing that? Are you getting regular digital?
Are you kidding me, man? I think I had one last night. But I'm not sure.
Oh my God. Oh my God! Common law is going to get all pissed at you for talking that way.
I was at a urologist 4 months ago. Had the whole thing, the bend over, the stand up and cough, the digital rectal exam. I told the story that again, he's talking about these guys always know who I am in the medical field, so it's a real pain in the ass. And of course, he's balding. But yes, I do check myself out on a fairly regular basis. I'm also a little bit of a hypochondriac, and so when I say that I'm not concerned about taking finasteride, and I do have some hypochondriacal issues, then I think that says a lot. But again, with that said, I think you're right. You need to get checked out. But even the American Cancer Society now, or at least I would say the medical director of the American Cancer Society, what's his name? I forget his name now. I had him on the show a couple of months ago. He is now claiming that he thinks that, and he's a urologist, that PSAs are really ineffective tools in the fight against prostate cancer, and they may be a waste of time. So I'm not saying that that's the case. This is just, something that he actually said on the air. So, who knows? I definitely think if you're going to get yourself checked out, you have to have your PSA levels basically doubled when you're on finasteride. And that's kind of like the rule of thumb for finasteride users. So,
well, what is your doctor, your urologist, when he knows that you've been on this stuff for so long, what modalities does he utilize to make sure that he's dealing with that issue?
Well, he's actually on it himself, just to let you know. So he believes it's a very, very safe drug. He did double my values, and he does definitely think that I should constantly, the digital rectal exam. And he's of the belief that finasteride use actually will cut the risk of prostate cancer. But, that the jury is still out on that one.
So he's not buying into, all that crap about the high grade Gleason score, more aggressive prostate cancers. He does think that was all just a case of they were shrinking the drug was shrinking the prostate, so the doctors were more likely to hit a nest of cancer cells.
He actually, not only does he take it for his hair loss, he is taking it as a
prophylaxis against, yeah.
So, I mean, and he's a pretty well-known urologist here in Los Angeles. So, who knows?
Well, that makes me feel a lot better to hear that, it makes me feel a lot better to hear that. So,
all right. Listen, George,
I really appreciate you taking my questions. Thank you very much for once again being patient and answering my questions very, very thoroughly. So it's always a pleasure.
You got it,
to
man.
Speak with you, and
it's good hearing from you, man.
You too. Is it possible for you to put me on hold in the listen mode, or is that going to mess you up?
No, I'll put you on hold. All right, George. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care. Let me do this. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
I called you. This is Curtis. I called you Friday. You told me to call tonight.
Oh, Curtis, what's happening, man? Curtis called the free for all and said he had a really interesting story. About his life.
Yeah. So, I've never really told it in completion. So
let's hear it, bro. That's what the show's about.
Yeah, I listened to your show the last few months. Well, I'm probably 48, so about a year older than you, right?
Right. So you're old.
I'm all right. Anyway, so thanks. Anyway, I didn't call the show for that, but
So go ahead.
Anyway, so when I was like 22, I guess I started noticing hair loss, and as you put it, not equipped to deal with it.
Right.
But had no, as you know, in those days, there's no internet, there was no information.
That was the fucking dark ages, man, when it came to this shit.
But you were willing to believe anything, so I tried crap. I went to this place, and they said take these vitamins, and they did a laser and all, supposedly.
You and I were going through the initial throes and doing the same panic shit at the same time in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And I was freaking out, and so anyway, so I'm in the Virginia area, and I see Brooks Robinson on TV. I don't know if
and by the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, but at the time, around the same age, when I was 21 and you were 22, I was going through it. I was actually living in Bethesda, Maryland.
So you'll probably know the guy. I don't want to say his name, but
why not? Say it.
Yeah, but anyway, so I see this thing for Brooks Robinson, and he had a hair transplant, and the guy that did it is advertising I did Brooks Robinson's hair transplant. So at 22 years old, that's all I needed to hear, right? I mean, Brooks Robinson,
That's right.
I'm done. So it was Dr. Whiting in D.C.
Yeah, well,
So I don't know if you,
listen, he was a well-known name for many, many years in the hair loss industry.
right. So, but all in all, so, I mean, he did, I must say, what he said he was going to do, he did. It wasn't like he lied exactly. You know, I mean, what he did, what he said he could do, he did. Does that make sense?
He said that he can put hair in your head and make it grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did.
He did. He didn't tell you what direction it was going to grow in, and it was going to look like doll's hair, but he made it grow.
Well, so 3 procedures with him, and I was lucky enough that I had really coarse, curly hair.
Let me ask you a question. How much was it per graft back then? Like $25?
No, he charged me $500 a session.
Oh, wow. Not terrible. How many sessions did you have? How many grafts did you have?
Well, Thursday, but what happened was, so it's a funny story. And I'm, young guy. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I bring cash, $500. Bring $500 the second time. And then I show up the third time, and he goes, well, now it's per graft. And I go, I only have $500. And they go, all right, we'll do it anyway. I just had $500 in cash.
Yeah, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. That's how these guys all operated back then.
Yes, I mean, there were guys coming in and out. And the place was packed. It was like a dentist's office, so I figured this must be the place. And, literally it won an hour. And, you leave with the bandage on your head like a turban.
Oh, dude, and it was so bad. Were they using a machine punch back in the day? Were you getting like these round grafts taken out back?
He gave me gas, and so I was drunk, and so I don't know, so I don't remember, and but so over a couple years it grew, and I could. So this starts my OCD and obsessive compulsive behavior. Now it's just, I'm going to go through the roof the next 15, 20 years of my life, trying to deal with making it.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm sorry that I'm being interrupted by the chat. The people in the chat room are claiming that they're busting me for dyeing my hair, and not that I wouldn't dye it, guys, but it's the derm match. I mistakenly put it in the front the last time a little bit, and after speaking to Andrew, he said it looked good, so it's not hair dye.
Here I am in the middle of this compelling story, and that's what they're interested in.
This is just the guys in the chat. They're not interested in much of anything.
I mean, here's this.
These guys are loaded, and they're in the chat, so don't even worry about it.
Story.
You got a couple. You got a couple 100,000 people who are actually listening to the show. So just go on.
This is a great story.
Yeah.
Don't worry about your hair color right now. It's fine for the most part.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, well, believe me, I'm with you. So anyway, so I spend the next part of my life, I've even skipped the years of wearing a hat. I'm skipping through years of the 23, 24, of always wearing a hat, and my friends making fun of me, that kind of, oh boy, you're starting to lose your hair, man, that kind of stuff. And anyway, so. Well,
what was it like, being that age, dealing with it, already having the transplants and trying to go out and get laid?
Well, here's what I was going to tell you. All right, so let me just tell you this. I was able to grow it long enough that it looked good. Like, people thought I had, where'd you get, some people would go, do you have a toupee, actually?
Interesting.
Because I was so obsessed, and it was so coarse and thick, that it was an illusion.
Right.
All illusion. But with hairspray, I discovered hairspray. That was like the miracle drug. That was my cocaine,
Me too, man.
And
I had I still do. I have a hole over my house.
I'll get to that. I almost cut the. Anyway, so I could make it look good through that, but it would take like an hour. I was obsessed with it, and so the thing I had to worry about was when they would touch my hair, good God, it was like a rock.
Yeah.
So I had to always get into that.
Yeah, I can catch flies in my hair.
Yeah, so that was all, but the point of these years was it was always on my mind. So when I hear Joe talk, but those were for girls, those were my best years ever.
The helmet head comb over years.
Well, but just the illusion, years.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's fun, So around 28, I get married, and told her what was going on, and she's fine with it, for the most part. But as I start to get older, it starts to lose more. So it becomes more complex.
Right.
Trick.
Yeah, you're becoming. You have to become more creative. All of a sudden, there's like smoke and mirrors and all kinds of shit.
Well, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but I'm in a job where I'm in front of people, type of thing. Very self-conscious, so I become more obsessed with.
Now you're in front of people like a salesperson, or you're in front of people like you're entertaining people.
Not entertaining people, per se. But anyway, no, not like that. But so I become more obsessed with it, right?
Yeah.
So it causes a lot of, kids, and it's like, why are you worried about your hair? Why are you worried about your,
Well, okay, so when you say you're obsessed with it, we're all obsessed with it, but were you just like making your wife crazy over it? Were you making your friends crazy over it? Were you...
No, like taking 2 hours, I wouldn't go out, till I was worried how much it was, because how it looked.
Right. Well, the way you're saying it, it's almost like you're making it like you're, and I understand because it's you, but you're not alone in this shit. Everyone who deals with this or is trying to cover up their hair loss is dealing with it.
It was, but this is years I'm talking about. It's like 20 years. So then I tell her, look, I can't take it. Let me get it fixed, and it'll make everything better, right? So I go to a guy in Virginia, so I'll fix it.
Let's see. Let me take a guess. In Virginia, was it Giannato?
No.
Okay. Who was it?
Bosley now.
Okay, he's with Bosley now.
Yeah.
All right.
And it helped a little. So that's number 4.
Okay, right. He's with Bosley now. His name Epstein.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So.
And actually, what year was that?
10 years ago.
Yeah, he's actually good. His practice has really evolved. I know that he works with Bosley, but he's actually pretty good at what he does.
But he freaked me out because he wanted to take some out, and I said absolutely not. I couldn't risk that.
Yeah.
I just wasn't going to go.
No, he's a skilled guy. He's really nice too. And he's a very honest guy. Yeah.
And he said you got to come back in the spring, but I didn't. So more years of hairspray and obsession. Literally every aspect of my life was ruled by this. Not wanting to travel.
Oh yeah. Not wanting to go to the beach, not wanting to, just go to events, not want to go to weddings.
Yeah, just worried, it's going to take, just everything revolved around it. Everything. So, and it started to get real bad. So then about 3 years ago, I said, I've got to do something, because I guess I couldn't take the pressure it was putting on my life. I wanted my life back.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. I wanted.
Of course, it makes sense. When you're obsessed with something to this point, it's not that it's an abnormal obsession. Maybe if you didn't have a transplant early on, maybe you could have dealt with it in another way. But now you're kind of trying to catch up and trying to keep up with the old transplants. Yeah. And you have scars in the back of your head. It really becomes this big camouflage issue.
That wasn't an issue because it was long enough. That wasn't an issue.
Okay.
But it was just I was worried about. The biggest thing that always freaked me out was people were like, for real or not real, staring.
Yeah.
It just freaks me out. And so I said, I've got to do something because, making everybody crazy, taking 2 hours or an hour. When you
say everybody, you have children?
Yes.
Okay, so now you're dealing with kids and your wife.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can't explain it. It's too bizarre to explain.
Now, did it affect your career in any way?
Luckily, no, because it's like I always said, no matter what, I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to, no matter what it takes, I'm going to not let that happen.
Right. Well, good.
I'm going to, even if it's uncomfortable, I'm going to do what I need to do. Always had that feeling.
Right.
So luckily, somehow, this is not going to I'll battle it, but I'll battle it by myself, kind of, very inward.
Right. You're being stoic about it.
Yeah, just not sharing. I don't know. Just keep it inside. So
well, it sucks, man. You know what? It's there's a guy on who calls the show for years. His name is Marcus, and he described it as, I always say there's a life after hair loss, but he says it's really kind of like half a life. Even though you can live, it's not what it could have been if you didn't have to deal with this shit.
Yeah, but see, I agree and disagree. See, I've been lucky, I guess, by the end. So about 3 years ago, I said, all right, I'm going to try to just get a little more done so I can get to I think I'm getting close, right? So I went to another place in Virginia who used to be that doctor you said.
Right.
It's a lady that does it.
All right.
In Richmond. But, well, let me tell you, though, although, we might disagree on this, and I don't know, I'd gone with names in the past, right? What I'd done was I thought I'd found the biggest name.
Right.
This time, I just met this person and explained everything, and she said, I will help you. I promise. And, so I was in there for 9 hours.
And what year was this?
3 years ago.
3 years ago in Virginia?
Yeah.
A woman in Virginia.
Yeah. Well, she ran it. She wasn't the doctor.
Okay.
And they spent 9 hours with me in one day. In detail, like everything, and like I was involved in every part of it.
Right.
So now 3 years later, I'm where I have a 80% normal life.
So can you tell me who the doctor was?
At the time, Gil Savig.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so he actually helped you.
Yes.
Well, that's great.
Him, I would say more that practice helped me.
Right. Okay.
He facilitated.
Right.
But there's people there that really run it.
Right. But he performed the surgery.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. So at this point, you feel like, okay, you've been through the mill of 20 years, you had bad hair transplants, and you had decent hair transplants, and you're always trying to catch up and live your life. Now you feel like you're at a point where you're comfortable in your life? You feel good about yourself?
Yes.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's what it's all about.
No, it's not perfect.
Nothing's perfect. Even if you think other people's lives are perfect or their hair is perfect, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect.
What helped is I actually had to go to counseling.
Okay. Well, good.
Part, because we got so head-butted on, no pun intended, to explain so she could understand.
Who, your wife?
Yeah.
Okay. And
then the counselor and it's been immense help, and she said, honestly, and she told me the truth, I never would have thought twice.
About?
Your hair. She goes, I never would have noticed. Never.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't put it this way. It was so bad, I cut my own hair. I won't let anyone touch it.
Well, that's very funny because I cut my own hair for 12 years. And when I look at pictures of myself back in the day when I was doing that, this is many, many years ago, it looked like I was cutting my own hair. It was ridiculous.
But I've gotten pretty good at it. So, but since then, with the help of this lady, I have someone every now and then I let cut it. And the lady that cut it goes, I told her and she had no idea.
Well, there you go. I think also it has to do with your hair characteristics. You're telling me you have kind of coarse hair.
The break I caught was I have thick, coarse hair. So the illusion can be done perfectly.
And let me ask you, how did you find the show after all these years? I mean, you just said you just started listening to the show.
Messing around with the internet.
And you found this. That's awesome, man.
But at first I thought it was a joke when I saw the net. I don't want to hear a bunch of people going, shave your, like, ha-ha. Right. I don't know. Yeah, I can't. I thought it was going to be like, bald men rule or something.
Well, I think everyone, including everyone in radio, my original agents, everyone thought that what we do is a joke here. So
no, I don't mean that. I meant it was going to be like.
No, I'm just busting your balls. I know exactly what you mean.
It was going to be like, we're going to take over the world, bald men, that kind of show.
Yeah.
Then I started listening to it, and I was going, man, this is my story.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm glad that we were able to kind of, provide you, I love hearing from guys who are just being turned on to the program, who have unfortunately been through what you've been through, but you're kind of coming out the other end and you're able to tell a positive story.
I have to do the stuff you do, little camouflage here and there, a little hairspray, but it's so much better. If you had, I'd send you a picture, but I would just want to send it to you. You could see what it looked like.
All right. Well, we can certainly arrange that.
Yeah, and so I listened to. But to your point, the last thing else, you're saying, a half a life. I've got to be honest about something. It's given me, because I guess if it hadn't happened, I was up to that point. I was kind of a cocky guy.
Right.
Played sport or. I have developed a level of compassion I think I never would have for people.
You know what? And I hear that a lot. And honestly, the same thing happened in my life. Now, I didn't go down the same route as you did.
Yeah.
But I definitely, going through this and going through it at an early age, you really do develop a level of compassion. And honestly, as much as I've suffered over the years, and as I've seen people suffer around me, and being around people that suffer all the time who write me, and sometimes it drives me nuts, and I feel like, oh, why am I still doing this? It's kind of depressing. If this didn't happen to me, if I didn't do what I do for a living, I just wouldn't be the same person.
Yeah, and it's made me better. In a weird way, it's made me a better father and a better husband. That's something that I might not have taken seriously. I listen to it now, no matter how weird it sounds to me.
Right.
I understand that to that person, it's real.
Well, you're right. And, when you're dealing with anybody who has a phobia, a fear, a concern, something that, like you said, you can't relate to, it's in their mind. It's so real. It's affecting their lives. You have to stop and listen. So listen, dude, I really appreciate the call. We have to take a break. I'm so glad that you decided to call in today and tell your story. And I'm really happy that, you have your life back, man.
All right.
All right, man. And listen, keep listening and feel free to call in anytime.
All right.
All right, bro. Take it easy. Good luck.
Your hair, the color's fine.
Take it easy, dude.
All right.
Stop busting my balls. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching, of course, through the GFQ network, gfqlive.tv, thebaldtruth.com, and on all of our online resources. You're watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay with us.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
What time does the show come on? 9 where? Well, what's the name of the show? And what's the name of him? Okay. Well, turn it on then. Jesus. Okay. All right, is it recording? Okay. Hey there, this is Gary Coleman. I don't have any idea what this is about, but you're watching. What? No, not watching. Let me do that again. Take 2. Hey, this is Gary Coleman. I have no idea what this is about, and I think people just need to learn to respect themselves and other people respect who's bald. You're listening to The Bald Truth. That's 2. All right, fine, but this is it. Otherwise, he's going to have to go in his wallet. All right, here you go. Take 3. Ready? This is Gary Coleman, and you're listening to Spencer Coburn on The Bald Truth.
Hey, guys. Welcome back. Forgot to press the second button for the music. I guess that happens. 888-659-3727. I guess that happens when you're drinking beer on the air or anything else, which you're really not supposed to. When I was doing terrestrial radio, that was a big no-no. We were not supposed to drink on the air. That's not to say that a lot of guys didn't drink on the air and do other things on the air, but it was always like, especially when you're actually being paid by the station, they didn't like that. Anyway, 888-659-3727. If you're just tuning in, you're watching The Bald Show and you're listening to The Bald Show. If you're listening on resources like Stitcher Radio and iTunes Radio, you're listening to the show. If you're watching the broadcast, you may be watching on GFQ live.tv. You may be watching it through thebaldtruth.com. You might be watching on Stickham.com or Ustream.tv, or perhaps you're watching on Justin TV. And just want to welcome all of you. If you're new to the broadcast, this is the Hair Loss Show. If you're not dealing with hair loss, you're not concerned about hair loss, don't know anyone who is dealing with hair loss, then change your station, turn the dial, go on to a different webpage, and enjoy your life. But if you're like most of us, there's a pretty good chance that you're dealing with hair loss. If you're like the 2/3 of men by the age of 35 who are dealing with hair loss, like all of us did, who are part of this broadcast, then welcome. Know that we're not here to sell you anything. We're not here to provide you any bullshit products or services. We're here to provide you with a safe place to vent, to learn, to share, to be a part of something that, sadly, we don't want to be a part of this fraternity, but that's really what it is, in a sense. We don't want to be a part of it, but it's good that it's here, because we are here to provide you with a safe place to learn about anything and everything pertaining to hair loss. That's it. Sounds strange. If you're just tuning in, you've never seen this show, never listened to this show, you're like, what the fuck can these guys be talking about? Or this guy, because I'm the only guy here, talking about if they're not selling something. Well, I will tell you guys, you newbies, that I've been doing this for 14 years. Still on the air, bro. Still on the air, doing what I do. Because 200,000 of you wake up every day realizing for the first time that you're losing your hair. And it's tough. The initial throes of hair loss it's the worst, whether you're a man or a woman. Dealing with hair loss, like our friend who just called in before the break, being young, jumping onto the hair transplant wagon, especially back in the dark ages, not really knowing the reality of going under the knife and what it entails as far as it being kind of like a lifelong commitment, understanding that hair loss is progressive, understanding that if you make the wrong decision, if you make the wrong moves, you only have a finite amount of hair that can be utilized for a successful hair transplant. And if you screw that up, if the doctor fucks that up, if they have a bad day that day, if they don't have well-trained technicians, you could be up shit's creek. So before you buy any product or service, before you consider surgical hair restoration, please do your due diligence. Make sure you educate yourself. Empower yourself with the information that we provide here on the broadcast, through Bald Truth Talk message forums, through the American Hair Loss Association, and through the Bald Truth website, and through other resources. Sister resources like the Women's Hair Loss Project, Women's Hair Loss Project.com. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I'm getting old. 888-659-3727. I'm going to bring Joe back. I'm going to take some more calls. Joe, I'm sorry that I left you on hold for so long. I wanted to come back to you to see, how you were, and to ask you what's going on in the chat room.
Well, I have a lot of things to get to. First of all, you're being attacked in the chat room, and I'm being attacked. A lovely lady, Tracy, attacked me saying I was insane, and I really broke down and cried hearing that. But then she retracted her statement by saying that she was just kidding around, that she really loved me.
Well, good.
I told her I like to call her because I'm very sensitive, Spencer.
I'm glad. And for the guy that's getting sleepy in the chat room, listen, I've been helping insomniacs for 14 years. So, a lot of people are castigating you for talking about Propecia. They don't like that. And they're upset about that. I'm not allowed to talk about Propecia. I'm not allowed to talk about a drug that changed my life. I'm not allowed to talk about my experience with something that, that worked for me. I'm saying, but how fucked up is that? That I am somehow held responsible for, whatever other people are dealing with. I'm unallowed. I'm not allowed. I'm forbidden to talk about my experience. I have death threats online because I talk about my experience and share my experience and try to counsel other guys who are considering using this drug. How effed up is that?
I understand one guy actually wanted to kill you. Is that true?
There's a guy online that threatened my life.
That's pretty sick, isn't it?
Said that he was going to kill me.
It's pretty, Well, I'm glad you have a staff of bodyguards, man, because I think you really need them. To be honest with you.
Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea where it goes. There's such illness out there. There's so many guys that are just so messed up over this and other things. And you kind of throw hair loss into the mix, especially when you're dealing with mental illness. It could certainly throw somebody over the edge. I mean, it really screwed me up. I thought that growing up, I felt pretty mentally stable. I really did. I don't think that I was prone to depression, especially in my younger years. This changed everything for me. This kind of set me into a new level. I just wasn't, talk about not being equipped to deal with hair loss. I wasn't equipped to deal with the emotional impact of hair loss because I never dealt with anything like it before. And, I guess I was very lucky into that point because a lot of young people have to deal with a lot of crap, and they do suffer from clinical depression and, other issues. But I think this kind of threw me into that, into that, that category. So I can't even imagine if somebody's really kind of on the edge and then something like this happens to them, or if they're on the edge and they take a drug that's supposed to help them and that screws them up. So it's got to be rough. I understand it, but it's not my fault. I'm not the drug manufacturer.
I got to reiterate this, though, millions of people listening to the show right now. Hair loss, in my opinion, is the only the only disease that can radically change every single aspect of your life. From career choices to how you work, to your social interactions. It affects you every second of your life. Can you name another disease that does that?
Vitiligo.
Well, I think I'm coming from, Spencer.
Oh, you asked me to name another disease that could affect you like that. I named one, and you were dumbfounded.
I mean, that keep a person like me bedridden. I'm unable to leave the home most of the time.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I think that your reaction to hair loss and what occurred in your journey and your trying to help yourself. I can tell you that if you suffered from something like vitiligo, where you couldn't wear a hat to cover your head, to cover the issue, I think you'd be a lot worse off.
Why wear a surgical mask like the late Michael Jackson did?
You have to wear a lot more than a surgical mask, especially depending on the level of it. People suffer with different things. There are different extents of suffering, and there's different degrees of suffering and different disorders and diseases that, the vitiligo is not going to kill a person. But for many, it will completely destroy them emotionally.
Well, you can apply makeup, I understand, to vitiligo. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can, but it's still pretty, it's a pretty terrible thing to have to deal with. So I'm just trying to put things into perspective. You're asking me to name another disease that could affect you 24 hours a day, especially a disease that affects your appearance. That is one of them. What about very large-scale plaque psoriasis? That's another one. Plus, there's the pain involved and the itching.
But no other disease, let me pose this question to you. No other disease has a domino effect that hair loss has. Can I elaborate on that, please?
You can try.
If I wasn't a hair loss sufferer, I never would have become a cop because I became a cop to wear a hat all the time. I never would have met my wife. My kids never would have been born. So everything has changed, going on and on and on. True or false?
That's true. But what happens to say you lost a leg younger in life? Your life would have been changed profoundly, and you may have taken on a different direction. You probably would have met different people. You may have ended up with a different woman, having different children, affecting lives in a different way. One of your kids could have grown up to be a murderer or the president of the United States. I mean, you can say that with anything, dude.
I know, but it's just like.
Listen, I love you, Joe. I love you, but I gotta tell it like it is. I mean, you can say that with anything. Listen, hair loss sucks. I'm going to repeat myself like I do every time I do this show. I do what I do because hair loss sucks. It affected me in a way that it devastated me. I paint my head. I paint my head so much, in fact, now people think I'm dyeing my hair. Not that I wouldn't dye my hair, but that's just the way it's been turning out lately because I'm using more Dermatch. So when you use it, especially when your hair's a little wet and you start to comb through your hair, it kind of covers all of your scalp and your hair. So sometimes it's going to look a little darker.
Well, you know, I saw you a couple weeks ago, and I took your hair close up, but it's a lot more grayer off camera.
Oh, it's much more gray in person.
Right now, there's no gray at all.
Yeah, it's much more gray in person. I mean, the front is very gray. The sides are very gray.
Totally gray. It's at least 35 to 40% gray.
I'd say it's about 40% gray. But, you know, the lighting really, you can understand that when you have lights on, when you're on, and I don't wear any makeup except on my head. But,
yes.
And I wear that in regular, so I don't wear any makeup for the camera. But
you don't wear any foundation?
I don't wear any foundation. What happens is when you have the lights on you, it basically kind of smooths out the look because the lights are so bright. So it could, you know, if they're too bright, they can actually kind of, you know, kind of drain the color from you. But if you have the right lighting with, you know, we have a 3-point lighting kit here, it kind of flattens your look. So you don't see the wrinkles. And for whatever reason, my gray doesn't show up in this room in the way the lights are configured. I've actually tried to configure the lights to show more gray. For some reason, I can't. I also think that has to do with the stream because if I'm looking at myself on my monitor, I have a lot more gray. But as soon as it's you know, it's compressed and it's streamed and all that stuff, the coloring changes. So yes, I definitely. People say that I look very young on camera. I look, to me, significantly older in person.
Well, I could say, you know, I think you look very young in person. I don't think you look.
Well, I look younger than my age in person for whatever reason, but I definitely don't think that I look as young in person as I do on camera, which is a good thing. You know, this is what I do. Most people are going to see me on camera, so it's great.
Well, you look about 28 on camera and about 39 in person.
29 on camera? I don't think so, but I appreciate that.
You are a beautiful boy, Spence. I have to say that. But getting to technical questions, you don't mind. A lot of sufferers want you to elaborate, if you don't mind, on Equal, the new DHT inhibitor supposedly coming out. A lot of hair loss sufferers ordering it online. I don't know if you heard about that.
I do, but you know that basically it's a drug that's being used for benign prostate hyperplasia, right?
Yes, I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Maybe you can elaborate on it.
Yeah, so I mean, the only thing that I can elaborate on is that we do know that it kind of can have the same type of effect as, from what I understand, as finasteride, and the claims are that the adverse side effects aren't going to be as severe. I don't know if that's the case or not. So in the hair loss world, it's kind of like relatively new as far as, you know, what's being discussed. Not too many doctors are really discussing it either. So, and right now it's just going through, you know, through trials anyway. So we really don't know what's going to happen with it.
Is that available now, Spencer?
It is not available now.
All right. One more brief thing I had to mention in my notes. I was just going on my notes while you were talking to this other guy. I wanted to ask a question about him. I want you to know that Johnson & Johnson and Merck are now involved in new clinical trials in regard to hair loss. Specifically why, I don't know. They didn't comment on. All they're saying they're involved in new clinical trials with new products. I don't know if you heard about that.
You know what, Joe? That one, you got me on that one. When did you read that?
I picked that up today online. They didn't say what it does, anything about it. All they said they're involved in clinical trials. Merck and Johnson & Johnson.
Together? They're together on a hair loss product. I didn't have a lot of time to spend online today. I had meetings all day. So this is actually the first time I'm looking some stuff up right now.
They don't elaborate. It was just one blurb. Nothing really elaborate. Just one blurb somewhere on one of the sites I read it on. That's all it said. It was really nothing elaborate. Maybe it's, you know, on the back burner. I don't know. They didn't say what it does.
Well, listen, Joe. You know, the one thing I admire you for your tenacity as far as, you know, just constantly going out there, doing this, as you say, studying the situation, bringing information to the show. But one thing that I would love to see, and I haven't been able to convince you of this, is to somehow find a way to have a life right now. Because, dude, we've been talking about this forever. I don't know when any of this shit's going to come to fruition. I really don't. I want everyone to be hopeful and to know that, you know, there's science is working on it. But honestly, I don't think hair transplantation is going anywhere for a long time. I don't think, you know, I think what's going to happen is, you know, things are going to improve. I definitely have some faith in histogen and Replacel. I think that the hair transplantation is evolving. Perhaps Dr. Go's technique will end up being something that is a viable option that actually does work for people as far as regenerating hair follicles. at this point, the jury is still out. I hope to be able to interview Dr. Go again. He did say that he would get back to me as far as the time and when he's going to be able to do it. He was traveling a lot this summer, and he's pretty busy. He has not gotten back to me yet, and I haven't followed through as far as trying to, get him on the air again. But, I'll give him a call next week and see if we can kind of solidify a date. I do know things are happening, and I do know that things are getting better for hair loss sufferers. But, Joe, I mean, if you think that something's going to come out next year that's going to change your life, I just don't think so. So you got to figure out a way to enjoy it now. What can we do for you, man? Is there a way that we can do something to get you in a better place?
Well, as you know, I could have a few thousand grafts from what's his name, Dr. Fella. But I need an unlimited donor area, Spencer. Something like that. Dr. Go came to fruition. That would be virtually be a cure for me. I would undergo 10 surgeries.
Like guys in the chat room, I've said this all the time. What about a piece? You wear basically a piece of toilet paper on your head and a hat. I mean, I can't even imagine.
A bandage, actually.
Yeah, a bandage. What about a very, very, very fine lace hair system that could be so light, maybe like the size of a, I don't know. I don't know what your hair loss, the circumference of your hair loss is, but a very, very small, lightweight piece that would just give you coverage. You would still see a little scalp, but it will give you, especially for a man of your years, you're in your 50s now, make you look like you have a completely full head of hair. Why is that such a terrible thing for you, especially since you're married, you have children, you don't leave the house anyway, so maybe this will get you out of the house.
Well, I find it kind of odd, to be honest with you.
Odd in what sense? Have you tried it?
I find hair pieces very odd, very, very odd.
Well, I would say that hair pieces that you can realize are hair pieces could be odd because it's a fake-looking thing. It doesn't look good. But if you were able to wear something that, and I always tell people, less is more when it comes to a hairpiece. You've got to show skin. There's got to be skin in the front and skin in the back just to kind of like throw off the eye. But I tell this story all the time about this guy, Kent Emmons, who now has a really great hair transplant from a doctor in Arizona, Dr. Scott Alexander. But, for years he decided to, he contacted me, said he was going to start doing on-camera stuff. And he wanted to get a hair transplant because he just wanted to look better. He wanted to feel a little more comfortable. He wanted to look younger. The guy's my age. Norwood 6. I told him there's no way you're going to recover by the time you have to get on television. I'll help you get into a piece. He was resistant. When he got it, and he got the box in his house. He opened it. He said he was going to kill me. He couldn't believe that I had him, I had this company send him this shit. I said, listen, just go get it cut in. I'm telling you, it could look good. Plus, he was blonde and his light skin. It changed his life, dude. It was a very, very thin hairpiece that looked 100% natural. The thing about this guy, Kent, is he would mention it to everybody that, was in the room. If people say, hey, Kent, you look good, he's like, it's a wig. It's a piece. He was very cool with it, so it didn't really affect anybody. And all people would say was how much younger he looked, how much better he looked. He still looked like a guy with thinning hair, but he looked like a guy with about 60% more hair than he had before he put the piece on. And it made a huge difference in his confidence, his appearance. He was able to do television, and he told everybody, so it didn't really make it. He wasn't in hiding about it. So, I mean, it could be life-changing, especially a guy in your position. All you do is your family knows about your hair loss. They know about your concerns. They know that you're hiding.
Well, they don't really know about it.
Oh, they don't. They don't know about it. What are they?
just who's laughing?
Yeah, listen, I got to tell you, man. I mean, that's what I would advise, and I could help you out. I get you into a system that, wouldn't cost you a thing. And if you don't like it, just rip it off your head and throw it out.
The problem is what happens when I take it off. I say, well, look at my, I suffer from big body.
What happens when you take off your hat?
Well, I normally don't take it off. I usually wear it to bed.
Do you take it off when you go to sleep?
No.
You sleep with your hat?
Yes, I have a nightcap, actually.
You have a nightcap. So, all right, so you can sleep with your hair?
With a bandage.
So when you shower, how do you shower?
I wash my hair once a month. I leave my stocking cap on. I shower maybe once every 2 weeks.
Oh, hold on for a second. You shower once every 2 weeks?
Yeah. If I did shower today, I came to the vlog world. I have to say that, and I shaved. Sometimes I don't shave. You know, I was pretty clean that day.
So how does your family stay near you if you haven't showered for 2 weeks? I'm rank after a day and a half.
They don't. My meals are brought to me upstairs. I don't eat meals with them. I just stay, you know, in my own room.
All right, dude. I'm going to take a phone call.
My psychiatrist said it's part of my body dysmorphic disorder.
I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to put you on hold, dude. I mean, I'm a little disturbed by this. I'm going to get back to you. Hold on.
Are you offended by it?
No, I'm not offended by it. I'm just disturbed by it. I feel even worse for you than I did earlier today. Hold on for a second.
It's part of my depression, man.
Hold on. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. What can I do for you? Hey, what's up, man? I hear myself in the background. You got to speak. Yeah, hey.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hello?
Hello.
I hear myself in the background.
Hi.
Hi, you're going to have to turn down your radio or your computer.
Yeah. I turned it down already.
So what's happening?
No, actually, I just would like to thank you, Spencer, for this beautiful show. And I've been listening to your show for the past 2 years. I'm calling from overseas, and it's already now almost like 5 in the morning.
Oh my God!
And I usually wake. Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
I'm originally from Lebanon, but I work in Dubai.
Wow! So you're calling me from Dubai.
Exactly. I just want to tell you that probably most of the workmates that I have, all of them are watching your program, and it's actually they're always looking for, because there are so many forums that talks about hair transplant techniques like Hair Restoration Network and etc.
Right.
But when it comes to future medication and personal problems of patients, hair loss patients and sufferers, I think nobody comes close to Spencer Kobren.
Well, I'm humbled by that, and I really appreciate you saying that. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think it's wild that we have guys in Dubai who are hanging out and checking out the show right now at 5 in the morning over there.
Definitely.
So tell me about your
Spencer,
issues.
I'm gonna tell you about my story. Well, in shortened, actually, I was doing my PhD doctorate and my master's when I was in London, and I suffered from hair loss, and I was 25 years old. So I found out a pharmacy or a hair loss center called Belgravia Center. And what happened is that they used to offer Proficia tablets.
Sure, I'm familiar with them. I'm here.
Proficia tablets and minoxidil, which is with azelaic acid, with the concentration of 12.5%. Believe it or not, I restored all of my hair back. I was almost between Norwood 2 and Norwood 3.
There are guys that are incredible responders, and finasteride is a very, very powerful drug in the fight against hair loss. If you respond well to it, it could be incredible. And sometimes that combination is very powerful. Minoxidil, either retinoic acid or retin-A, and finasteride.
Well, unfortunately, after 9 months, I started to suffer from erectile dysfunction.
Right.
And it really affected me psychologically because I was newly married, and my wife saw that I don't have any interest towards her.
Right.
Because from the start, I was very active, sexually active with her.
Right.
But so it really affected me very badly, that sexual side effect. So I decided to stop Proficia, and after 2 months, I went back on track. Okay. I kept using minoxidil, and I didn't want to pay too much money for the special minoxidil that they are offering. I heard from many doctors that it could burn the grafts, and it should be always 5%.
Right.
So I switched to Rogaine, or they call it Regain, in the Middle East and the UK. So it's okay. I'm fine. Probably it went fine with me, and I didn't have any problems about it. Then I started to lose some hair from the hairline. It started to recede because usually Regain and plus saw palmetto. I'm taking saw palmetto 500 milligram as well.
Right.
It could never restore your hairline.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The saw palmetto, did you start that after you stopped using finasteride, or were you using it together?
No, after.
Okay.
After.
I was just curious because
finasteride. Finasteride was magic.
There are guys that will start finasteride, then they kind of jump on saw palmetto with finasteride, and then they suffer from ED. So I was just curious if you're using it at the same time.
No, I was not, and I was aware of that. However, because I know that they have the same mechanism of stopping the 5R from inhibiting, or I don't know, I just don't know exactly the English phrase about it, but they will stop producing testosterone, right?
Right. Well, it's basically what it does is it will inhibit the enzyme 5-alpha reductase type 2 from converting testosterone into dihydrotestosterone.
Exactly. So I did a hair transplant for my hairline, and I went for a butcher, and this person actually he chose to split all of my grafts.
Who'd you go to?
And made them all single.
Who'd you go to? Who'd you go to?
Well, there is a doctor located in the Middle East. His name is Dr. Tahsin, and I think he has a clinic called LAD, which is Los Angeles Doctors.
Right.
And it made me feel like, oh my God, Los Angeles Doctors. But it seems like it was just, like an advertising name.
Sure.
And it was the only hair transplant clinic there. So when I went there, they removed the strip from the back of my head, and I heard the doctor himself telling to the technicians, and the technicians actually were normal nurses. They didn't have this much experience, so they ended up taking the grafts and splitting all the grafts into singles.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. But in a sense, you're kind of lucky. At least they're placing singles. At least they weren't placing,
exactly.
12 hair grafts.
Yeah, and the guy, he was showing off by making incisions in a very fast way.
Yeah,
it was like he was playing on my head. It was very, very fast. Probably he gave me a counting thing, and I was pressing on the button every single moment. Okay, and he managed to finish 100 incisions in less than 5 minutes.
100 what? 100 incisions in less than 5 minutes.
100.
So how many grafts did you have per each session?
Well, I had 2,000 grafts, and trust me, Mr. Spencer, I yielded less than half. And the grafts were spaced, and it really affected also the hair loss shock.
Oh, man.
They call it shock loss.
Shock loss. I'm so sorry. Hearing your story is heartbreaking.
Oh, my God. And you can imagine, I was so desperate. I no longer look normal. And I started to change my hairstyle for the first time from combing it backwards to sticking to Caesar style forever. And thank God that I found in the office of the doctor's office, something called Topic or Nanogen. So I started using them religiously. I was applying it on my hairline, and then I was combing my hair forward in order to get a Caesar style. And I lived like that for 2 years until I found a very good forum, which is the Hair Restoration Network. And thankfully, I met a very decent guy. His name is Dr. Rahal. And Dr. Rahal actually, just because probably he has a Lebanese origin like me, and we had a very good conversation in my mother language. He made me feel well, and I started to open my eyes. I was told about the IAHRS doctors. I made my research, and I find out that probably Dr. Rahal was the best option for me.
I will tell you this. There's a lot of great doctors in the IHRS, and I recommend them all. But there's a certain bedside manner that Dr. Rahal has to hear about.
It's amazing.
He's
it's amazing. You can't imagine.
He's a great human being. Not only is he a great hair transplant surgeon, he makes patients feel comfortable. He makes patients feel that they're not a number, that they're a person.
No, actually, Dr. Rahal really made me cry because from the start, when he quoted me a price, it was so high. I mean, because probably hair transplants in my country, or the country that I'm actually working in, it's very cheaper.
Right.
It's actually like probably $2.
Right.
But with Dr. Rahal, he gave me a special rate after understanding my situation and understanding that I have a newly born baby and everything. And he vowed to fix me up. And I went all the way to Ottawa, and it took me 24 hours flight.
Right.
And thankfully, once I reached, he took me and he treated me very well. And he decided to repair me with 2,500 grafts. And right now, I feel much better than ever. I'm just like a normal human now.
I love hearing those stories, man. I really do. And you know what I would love if you have the time, you should go on baldtruthtalk.com and kind of give Dr. Rahal his props. Maybe put up some pictures. Let people know that they are repairable. That even a guy in your situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I did in the Hair Restoration Network. I put all of my story.
But you might want to go into the Bald Truth Forum because our guys would love to see that as well.
I can't create an account. I don't know what's the problem. Is that I can't create an account there.
When did you try to create one?
I can't just have a login. I tried to create one last week, but
well, do me a favor. If you want, send your information. Say that the username that you used to create the account, and I'll make sure that your account is created. We actually have the forum world is a very strange world, so we basically keep it very tight. So it's kind of like a private forum, unlike other forums where you can just sign up and put your email address in, and they let you in. So if you want, send us another email. Say that you called the show, and I'll make sure that your account's approved. All right.
Okay, Mr. Spencer, I got two small questions, please.
Yeah.
The first question is it's regarding the FUE. Now, I think I would say that this would be my last strip surgery because my scar has the tendency of stretching back.
Right.
Okay, but I've seen many many surgeries, poor surgeries of FUE, and most of the doctors say that FUE would never survive. That the graft usually doesn't survive as the graft being extracted by strip surgery. Usually they have poor growth.
Okay, I will tell you this, that if FUE is done correctly, that's not the case. So there are doctors who will do that. A lot of doctors are kind of, they're not really offering FUE. So there are, and for some reason, I guess in the minds of some doctors, they really believe that because, in the past, there were a lot of FUE failures. But if FUE is done correctly, the grafts should have a very viable survival rate. There shouldn't be any less of a survival rate than if they're dissected via strip. So it really depends on who you go to.
I was told that Dr. Bisanga is great, but I actually heard about a doctor in Spain called Dr. Jose Lorenzo, and he has a clinic called Injerto Capilar.
Yeah,
and he has a whole page where all the results are videoed.
Yeah, Dr. Lorenzo has a great reputation. He has not applied to the IHRS, but he definitely has a good reputation, and I've heard a lot of great things about him. So I would say that your assessment, or at least what you've heard, is probably correct. And
probably.
He's definitely helping
Mr.
people.
Spencer, just the last thing I would ask, okay, because I know that there are a lot another callers,
right?
But I actually heard about a company in Australia, and in one of the sections in the forum, which is called Equal, S-Equal, okay?
Right.
That they say that most treatments work by stopping the production of DHT by suppressing the action of 5-AR enzyme. Okay, the S-equal is completely works in a different way. It has a mode of action that is very different to the 5-AR inhibitors. Instead of preventing the production of DHT, it binds strongly to the DHT molecules. So when DHT has S-equal attached to it, it's no longer a form of free DHT. So it cannot cause any MPP because the molecule is no longer able to bind to receptor sites. Okay, and so that means it will not affect the mechanism of the human body, but it will just bind to the DHT.
Right.
Now
that's what they're hoping, because the
thing.
trials aren't complete yet. But that's what they're hoping as far as the end result. So far, that's what they're seeing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which would be
a company, right?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean there's a company that produces this supplement right now called Folexine. So I was really wondering, does it worth it? Because I'm just really afraid from Finasteride, and I want to use something different orally, something that really.
Listen, I think that
minoxidil won't do the job.
I think that the jury's still out when it comes to this stuff, and right now they're currently conducting some trials. You might be able to get your hands on a kind of like you said, a supplement form. But who do we really know? How do we know that's going to be effective at this point? I don't know if I would jump on the bandwagon right now. I think a lot of people are hopeful, and actually I have been looking into it myself. It seems like it's going to be very interesting, especially if it is not affecting the body the way finasteride is. If we're getting the same results for both benign prostate hyperplasia and hair loss as we do with finasteride, but it's working in a different way, then that's very exciting stuff. But I would kind of just watch and continue to read. And right now, are you continuing to progress in your hair loss? Do you feel like you're kind of stable?
Well, so far I'm stable, but right now I can feel that my crown is a little bit thinning.
Right.
But I got a big question in my head right now. Would I proceed and do an FUE session for my crown by adding some little grafts and get a 30% or 40% density? Because right now it's 30%. I can see through my scalp little, but thanks to Nanogen,
my advice,
really amazing.
And again, I'm not a physician, but my advice is someone who really understands how hair transplants work and the industry, and just from hearing from so many patients, I would not waste my grafts in the crown right now. And you don't know where you're going. How are you going to progress? The crown is kind of like a black hole when it comes to surgical hair restoration. So unless you're really stable, go ahead.
And I'm sorry to disturb. Okay.
Yeah, unless you're really stable, unless you have a really strong frontal hairline and a mid-anterior scalp, and you don't think it's going anywhere, I would not waste those grafts in the crown. I would just continue to use the fibers and hope for the best.
Yeah, but the fibers can't hold. It should have some certain density.
Well, yeah.
In order for the fibers,
you need enough hair for the fibers to work, but. I just don't think it's a great idea. And listen, if it was me, I wouldn't do it, to waste your precious finite amount of grafts in the crown, at least at this point, because, you're telling me that you're continuing to progress. You've only had how many years? When did you have the transplant with Rahal?
I had the transplant with Rahal last year.
Yeah, I would wait. And you know what? You could ask Rahal as well. I know that Rahal is starting to do more FUE now as well. So he's somebody you should definitely talk to. Now, there are guys, obviously, who are more experienced with FUE. You mentioned a couple. You could have online consults with. I would think that most of the ethical doctors would probably say, hold off on your crown.
You may probably laugh at me right now because I'm hoping for histogen. Seriously talking,
I'm not laughing. I'm hoping for it. I'm hoping for it too.
I think histogen is not a forever solution like Cryptocell, right?
Right.
Histogen is like you need to get the injections every 2 years, something like that.
Well, yeah, that's what they're thinking. I actually just spoke to Dr. Craig Ziering today, and he will be getting us some pictures. He said that histogen put up a couple of pictures recently that can kind of show what it's capable of at this point. Yeah, I'm hopeful for Histogen. I'm hopeful for Replacel. I'm spitting on my microphone, Jesus. And I'm hopeful for the future of everything, of hair loss treatments. But in your case, and I'm not laughing at you, hoping for Histogen because we all are, I would probably, to get back to your hair transplant situation, just kind of take a step back, realize how lucky you are that you have a lot, and I would just kind of hold off because you never know if you're going to need those grafts in the future.
Well, actually, Mr. Spencer, I just would like to thank you again and again and again. Million thanks for these beautiful shows that you've given us, all these interviews that you're doing. It really keeps us always updated. And thank you very much for your honest advice of not playing with my crown right now. I'm really happy to know that someone who's really helping hair loss sufferers for nothing in return. And keep up the good job. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, man, thank you so much. Good luck. And I'm glad that you recovered from Propecia. I'm glad that you found Dr. Rahal and that you had a great experience with him. And just feel free, and if you want to write the form, let them know that you called tonight and you have not been able to get in, and we'll make sure that your account is approved. All right?
I will. Thank you very much, sir.
Take care. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow. So we had a call from Dubai. Pretty amazing. Wow. The world, Joe, the world is getting smaller and smaller. Can you believe it?
Yes, we get a lot of international calls, and it's very sounding like a very intelligent caller.
And nice caller. He just seemed like a nice guy. I just love hearing from guys who've been helped and who kind of, they're well researched and that they get it. They get it and they know how important what we do is. It's just it's nice to hear from nice callers, from nice people all over the world.
Yeah, a question, if you don't mind. First of all, I'm going to have to castigate Norwood for appearing on the show late. He said he was busy drinking. The guy is a terrible hair loss sufferer.
Well, I'm busy drinking too, but I'm doing the show.
Right, so I castigated him. I told him that he should be, now he's in the chat room apologizing to the audience. He's a very intelligent guy. He's an asset to the chat room.
He was working and drinking.
Working? I thought he did. He can't work because of his hair loss, he told me. I don't know. But all I have to say is, Dr. Ziering will be getting you those pictures you said?
Yeah, he actually said that there's one picture that they put up, and he apologized, that they put up on Histogen's website. I don't know if you've gone to the website recently, and he's going to get me a couple of other images. But, he did say, and just exactly what he said on the program, so I'm not saying anything that he told me in confidence, that he is seeing regrowth in the donor area using Histogen. So, who knows what percentage that is, and where the regrowth is coming from and how it's working. And but it's exciting. It's exciting stuff. I really think that we're getting closer and closer to more viable options. And again, I just want to let people know, I am trying to get Dr. Go on the program, or at least to do a recorded interview. But he has, he's promised me that we will do this, but he's been very busy. So I'm just getting some instant messages about it. So
my impression of Dr. Go is he gives no. You're a thorough journalist, and I applaud you for that. But he gives no clear answers. He kind of like beats around the bush a lot of times. If you notice that, was my.
I don't, wrong about that. I don't know if he beats around the bush or if that's just the way that he communicates in English. You know what I mean? I mean, English is not his first language, so I think he communicates pretty well, and I think that maybe it's difficult for him to express himself the way that he'd like to in the English language. Sometimes it's difficult for me, and it's my first language. And I also think that he keeps certain things close to his vest for, reasons that, only Dr. Go could really, answer.
Well, my opinion is he ought to train an IAHRS physician to do it, and that'll answer everyone's questions. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I told you that he said he's willing to, but I don't think he's willing to train some doctors that everyone wants him to train. And I think that there are doctors out there who are claiming that, or there's rumors that there are doctors out there that are going to be meeting with him and all that stuff. All I can tell you is, to my knowledge, these are just rumors. I told him that I would help him find the right doctor for him, that where he's completely comfortable as far as training, and someone that he thinks is really going to be able to take this, utilize it correctly, and get his, technology out there, in the way that he wants. And I'm trying to be diplomatic, but he definitely wants to do it. He thought that it was a great suggestion, and he said that, once we can find the right doctor, he would definitely train him at no charge.
Well, in my opinion, any IHRS approved that you approve for your organization would be a good doctor, in my opinion.
Well, in my opinion, yes, but that's not necessarily the opinion of Dr. Go, and it's not because they're not good doctors or they're not good at what they do. But I think he really wants somebody who is really more pro FUE, or someone who's really doing FUE on a regular basis, someone who's doing manual FUE, and someone who is really willing to kind of, put his nose to the grindstone and learn this technique and do it the way Dr. Go believes it should be done. I don't think he wants it to be bastardized. That's a tough word. And this is just from the conversations that I've had with him. So I don't really know what the reality is. All I know is this is what he's telling me. Maybe no one will ever be trained. I don't know. Maybe he'll just kind of hold off and hopefully get the guys, to pay $50,000 and train them that way. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's going to keep it under his roof. Whatever it is, it's up to Dr. Go.
Well, what does he have to gain by not training these doctors? I mean, like what's his name, doctor in Australia?
Woods. Well, what they have to gain is they want to.
Maybe there'll be another Woods.
Look, he wants the Jesus, I can't speak. Proprietary, intellectual property, that he's basically holding for his own business, and I kind of understand that, but it is medicine. So, but this is a cutthroat end of medicine. Cosmetic surgery in general is, but hair transplantation, in my view, especially. So it's a business. Now, while a lot of these guys are in business to actually help people, it's still, he put his heart and soul into this technique. He wants to make sure that he has control of this technique. He wants to make sure that if other people do it, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, if other people do it, that he, has the licensing rights and stuff like that. I think Dr. Woods wanted the same thing, but I don't think Dr. Woods went about it. At least I think history dictates that Dr. Woods didn't go about it prudently. And, sadly right now, in the view of many in the field, Dr. Woods has really just become kind of like a footnote in the history of FUE, which it kind of saddens me because he really still has tremendous passion for it. He was the guy who wanted to bring this to the forefront. He was the guy that really was the first guy to really to do it. I mean, he basically invented FUE, even though other people will claim that they did. And now he's kind of left behind, in Australia, working by his lonesome, 15 hours a day. So I'm sure he's not too happy about that. So maybe Dr. Go doesn't want to end up that way. I don't know.
Well, Dr. Go should speak to you about, possibly licensing IHRS physicians.
Are you kidding me? I tried to do the same thing with Dr. Woods. And then Dr. Woods got, he thought, I don't know, the whole thing was nutty, in my view. And it's unfortunate the way things went down. But that can't happen. I don't want to be involved in any of that shit. I don't want to be involved in anyone else's intellectual property. If Dr. Go wants to work with me as far as finding a couple of doctors to train, I'm more than willing to do it. I, extended that invitation to him, and it's an open invitation. But I don't want to go. I don't want to go into business with anybody. I don't want to, I just don't want to be involved in any of that. If you push a particular technique, it always ends up being a bad situation.
Well, when you say one brief thing, I mean, $50,000 is this. These hair transplant doctors is really a nominal fee. They can make that up many times.
It's not the money. It's not the money at all. If he was able to actually prove his, prove to these guys that the technique actually worked, I'm sure most of these guys would jump on it. For sure. It's money in the bank. It's money well spent. These guys will spend $200,000 on a piece of equipment. Do you think they're not going to spend the money to learn a technique like this if it's something that's going to create basically unlimited donor supply for their patients to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. It's going to be a revolving door for these guys if they can do this.
And more people opt for hair transplants, like Norwood Sixes, knowing now they can get 30 or 40,000 grafts and have a really, nice head of hair. Am I correct with that analysis?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It would be completely insane for any of these doctors not to embrace a technique like this if it works. And that's what I don't understand about the crap that's being written about the hair transplant industry or me or these doctors. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. The infrastructure is already there. It's not like, back in the day when doctors had to really completely change the infrastructure of their practice to incorporate microscopic dissection and have enough staff to really do larger cases of follicular unit grafting, and follicular unit transplantation. And, that's really kind of what held things back in my view for a long time. They didn't want to change the infrastructure. Everything was great. They wanted to cut the grafts to size. They didn't want to hire the staff. Everything was fine the way that it was. The infrastructure is there in most practices to do this type of FUE now. It's there. You don't need a huge staff. You just need to be able to work hard and to get it done. And a lot of these guys are working hard anyway. And if they can work hard, make more money, and have more patients, everybody's going to be happy. So, I don't think they're as concerned about the status quo as people who are not in the field and who are online talking about this stuff believe.
Definitely. So, in closing, can I please castigate someone in the chat room who's really starting to aggravate me? I have to castigate FDR. I stayed at Norwood 16 about 30,000 grafts to get full density, and he's attacking me for saying that.
Well, don't worry about people attacking you. If you're not, listen, I always tell people this. I haven't done my job if I'm not being attacked online. That's the way that it is. If I'm not being attacked by the hair transplant industry or people in the hair loss industry, I'm being attacked by, people on the message forums who don't get what I do. But I'm affecting change. I know that I have an impact. That's why otherwise people wouldn't talk about me or bash me or praise me. You have to feel the same way, Joe. You've become a part of this. Whether you like it or not, you're part of the Bald Truth.
Well, I consider my life the Bald Truth, man.
Well, and I appreciate that. And even Tracy in the chat room, she's like, "Oh my God, do I get attacked?" Tracy does get attacked. Tracy gets pummeled, in the message form. And I got to hand it to her. I mean, yeah, sometimes she'll kick back a little bit. She's only she's only human. But she stays in there and she continues to help people in the best way she knows how by providing what we have, the facts, the information that we have that is factual. That's all she works. That's all she works with.
I have attacked Tracy once. I demanded her transsexual friend's phone number, and she wouldn't give it to me.
Well, maybe one day if you get to, I think if Tracy actually got to meet you, she'd probably give you her friend's phone number.
Excuse me?
I think if she actually ever got to meet you, she would probably give you her friend's phone number. You come across a lot more odd on the air than you actually do in person.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. When you and your lovely wife come to me, I'll mention her name, obviously in the air. Please give me a call, and I'd love to go to dinner with you and Andrew.
Absolutely, man. We'll make that happen.
I'm pretty wealthy. I can afford to pay the bill.
Well, yeah, I'm going to let you take us all out. But listen, I got to get off, and I got to get some dinner. I'm 6 minutes late. 7 minutes after the hour. I know George was listening. I want to say goodnight to George. I want to say goodnight to Joe. I want to say goodnight to all the guys that called in. Joe, same time next week. All right, be here.
One more quick question. We have to go to Johnny from Ohio, and you'll be working on the Andrews area in Free Fall on Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
Yes, I think I will be working. I'll be working until Andrew fires me.
Well, I just hope him and Coco make up. We'll save the Friday show.
Okay.
God bless you, Spencer.
All right. God bless you, Joe.
You know what?
And God bless America.
After this show, you helped me so much, I'm actually going to take a shower.
All right, man. Take a shower. Enjoy that shower. I want you to be clean, man. It's unhealthy not to shower. All right, guys. The website's thebaldtruth.com, of course. If you are interested in interacting on our message forum, check out baldtruthtalk.com. And listen, it may take a little while before you guys get in. Basically, we run a quasi-private forum, believe it or not, even though it is currently the most trafficked forum in our field. We try to keep it as clean as we can keep it. We try to keep it, flowing in it's tough though, in a positive direction, but it's almost impossible. But we also try to keep out all the spam and all the nonsense. It is what it is. Sometimes it could take a couple of weeks for you to get in. That's unusual, but obviously our caller from Dubai said he signed up a week ago and he could not get in. Listen, like I said, tell them you called the show tonight, and we'll make sure that you get in. And that's it. That's it. It was a great show. I really appreciate all of you guys hanging out. Check out AmericanHairLoss.org for the American Hair Loss Association. If you're a woman dealing with hair loss, check out womenshairlossproject.com. All right? So until next week, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Splendid.